The following program frequently combines snark with clever innuendo. We really hope that you aren't offended. Really. We will even give you a safe space. There. Isn't that better?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. There have not been a lot of great inventions over the last year or two. I don't care what you iPhone users believe. But there has been one great innovation. Frankly, honestly, it's probably the greatest innovation that Elon Musk ever brought to the free world. And that's saying something, considering that people make a whole big deal about his whole big space thing. Ooh, private guy sending rockets into space. Ooh, such a big man. His whole Tesla thing. No, none of those rank anywhere near the greatest invention, the greatest innovation that he has brought, and he brought it to social media. Thank God. God bless that man, because I got to tell you something. This is such a great, phenomenal, amazing, mind-blowing innovation. And I'm specifically referring, of course, to community notes. That's right, community notes. Community notes, in case you're unfamiliar with social media, maybe you don't have an X platform, maybe you have a life, and you don't know very much about how X has been operating recently. Community notes are designed to help you understand when you're looking at a tweet if there is something that users of the internet believe to be completely fictional. Now, I do personally have a little bit of an issue with community notes, because while I was originally graded into being a note observer and agreeer, and then I graduated toward actually becoming a writer of community notes, which just made me feel very empowered and really special, far more special than, I don't know, I was 10 minutes earlier. Not more special than any other person's, but definitely more special than I was 10 minutes later. And I was stripped of that. I no longer have that power anymore. I learned that the other day. That harsh reality came crashing down on me when I learned that, in fact, because too many people had not approved of my community notes, which were both factual and also, with citations and setting forward just the reality of the world, like that, I don't know, Donald Trump had never been convicted of a crime. Too many people disagreed with me, despite the hard evidence I presented them with. And apparently, the community notes, if you can be stripped of that power, if you try writing a community note and people are like, no, we disagree with you, no matter how biased they are, unfortunately. But still, all my personal issues put aside, the one thing I can tell you that is amazing about community notes is that sometimes they can be bloody hilarious, just completely hilarious here. And this one, he's correct. 3-year Letterman is correct. This will never be topped. I don't even know what the context of the conversation was. Something having to do with World War II. Something having to do with, Sir Adolf there. But the guy had written, that's quite a word salad just to say your grandfather froze to death in the Ardennes. And this guy, Soap Enjoyer, who's got a little picture of a Sig Heil up there, which just makes him obviously slime. He basically wrote something that was designed to try and trigger, purposely designed to try and trigger, saying, Adolf turned your grandfather into soap, which he then used to wash his testicles, then used to wash his balls. How's that for a solution to the Jew problem? What a disgusting, awful, horrible person. And you think to yourself, why is Joe sharing this with us? It's because of community notes. Because sometimes, once in a while, community notes are great, really great. Some community notes are good. Some are so-so. Every once in a while, you come across a community note that is absolutely chef's kiss great. What community note could you put on this response from Soap Enjoyer, who I'm sure doesn't actually really enjoy soap on a frequent enough basis, but Soap Enjoyer over here, his what kind of community note could you put on this? Oh, only the greatest, most unbelievable community note correcting, saying you made a factual mistake there. You made a factual mistake there, soap enjoyer. When you're saying that he enjoyed it to wash his balls, and this is it. Hitler cannot have used soap to clean his balls because he only had one testicle. That's so good. And already the show is yellow. There you go. Anyway, I have a lot to cover tonight. So you would think that I wouldn't be wasting my time with an amusing little community note or with this next story that I'm going to just cover very quickly here. Very quickly, because apparently one thing I have to cover just very fast. I'm not going to be wasting your time. I know you guys got a lot for me to cover. There's a lot to cover tonight. A lot to cover. I get it. But I do need to share this with you. That is this right here. Tim Walz family. So first we covered the other day how his brother isn't such a big fan. Apparently, there was this group photo, which is just too funny for words. In case you're wondering what this is a group photo of, this is the Nebraska Walzes for Trump. A viral photo featuring 8 family members of Tim Walz showing them wearing Walz for Trump t-shirt. Oh, sometimes the internet can make anybody's day. It really can. That's right. Because who knows him better than his own family? His own family. Now, his sister actually tried defending him by saying that, hey, I don't know who those people are. But they are actually cousins, traceable cousins. Like they're, first cousins, second cousins, sharing a grandfather. So I don't know, depending on which generation you're talking about. And one generation, it's got to be first cousins. And then the next generation would be second cousins. If I share a grandfather with someone, so in that case, that would, as their grandfather, that would make them my cousin. That's definitely true. His sister tried defending, saying, I don't know who those people are. I don't know who they are. They're not real Walz. No, they're real. And they voted Trump 2024. Unbelievable. What true patriots. What? You think they agree with Tim Walz's policies? You think when they say take America back, that they mean, take us back to where we have a sanctuary state for runaway kids who are looking to cut off their own genitalia? Because my guess is no, that they wouldn't agree with Tim Walz on that policy. You think they mean let's take us back to where you can actually, if you have a failed abortion, that you can starve the newborn kid to death, like Tim Walz has passed in Minnesota? My hunch says no. Now, I don't know. Maybe apparently they took this picture before Walz became the vice presidential nominee, purportedly. If any of them jumped over, does that mean that they actually agree with Walz? You wouldn't be wearing this shirt and then still agree with Walz. The only reason they would be switching over is just like, family allegiance. But so I don't look at it as them necessarily telling us that Tim Walz is a terrible human being, seeing as how this photo was taken purportedly before Timmy Boy, Tampon Tim, was named a potential named the vice presidential nominee for the DNC. But I would say that man's standing on an island. He is standing on an island. So I just wanted to share that with you because you guys should be kept informed about the news. And if I'm not going to do it, well, I don't trust the media to do it. So with that, that's where I wanted to get out of the gate. Oh, and thank you, Tammy. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. That's very sweet. Okay. I got a lot to cover. I don't want to fall behind because I'm actually doing a locals after show. In fact, I should share a link to the locals after show. Definitely should be sharing that. I'm doing a locals after because what happened was when I started this morning. In case some of you are wondering, what does Joe do all day? What do I do all day? I literally surf the internet trying to figure out what I want to talk about at night. That's basically what I do. That's how I spend my day. I spend my day surfing to try and decide what should I talk about at night. And I actually came up with what I want to talk about tonight. Well, I came up with really Two different things. Okay. And I was like, this is a show. This is a pretty good show. One of them was Steven Crowder, where he has a video that he broke about a guy who's a guy from the DOJ, a pretty important fellow from the DOJ, or actually from the Southern District of New York, who is basically admitting that it's a travesty of justice. The other thing that so I definitely want to watch that video with you. The other thing I want to talk to you about is Judge Chutkan, who apparently, Judge Chutkan, was being very Chutkan-y today when the case of U.S. v. Trump that was filed in the Washington, D.C. In the Washington, D.C. court, that Jack Smith child, apparently she was very, very feisty today. So we're going to talk about that a little bit because I think it's important. Anyway, but I was going to be my show. I was like, I could totally spend an entire show talking about this. Maybe, stretched out with something, put in like one more story. And then the next thing I know, just one news story after another was just popping on me and popping on me and popping on me and popping on me. And I was just like, how do I forgot that I had the Crowder thing. I totally forgot about it. But that was going to be like probably the meat and potatoes in my show tonight. But instead, it's my locals after party. So what that means is it's not going to be, if you want to join me, I should attach a link, right? I should give you a link. That would be the appropriate thing to do. That's the professional thing to do. I'm not sufficiently professional to be on Russia's pay line. Sorry. I didn't mean it. It was a joke. It was a joke. There we go. Let me just send this over here so you guys have it. This is locals after party. Let's do that. Control C. There you go. Now you can all just find me. You could just click the link if you're in the chat. You could click the link. I know I didn't take care of you yet, Rumble. I didn't forget about you. There you go. It is in the description in Rumble already, as it is in YouTube. So if you're watching after the show, you might not see the clickable link there in chat, but you will be able to see it's clickable down below. While you're there, please leave like, share, comment. YouTube is still like cruelly whipping me left and right on the algorithm. I can't even tell you how they've been an abomination. They've really been very aggressive. Anyway, let's get into, after nearly 4 years, this is the Trump quote unquote admission. After nearly 4 years of falsely claiming that he won the 2020 election, Trump admits he actually lost by a whisker. Does he really make this admission? We're going to look at the clip. We're going to look at the clip to see, is he really what he's saying or not? But I will tell you that the comments, I do want to share with you the comments from everybody's favorite Glowy. If you don't know what Glowy means, well, you can check. It should be an Urban Dictionary. Everyone's favorite Glowy. When is the 100K party? When I get my play button, which I did order. I'm supposed to be getting it soon. I should be getting it in the next week or so. When I get the play button, that's basically what I decided. But thank you. Good question. Hopefully, I'm still at 100K at that point because I'm really not sure. Hopefully. Oh my God. Hold on 1 second. It's really hot. Yeah. Hopefully. Which would probably be like, I'm thinking like a week from Sunday. That's what I'm basically thinking. And I'll probably get some folks on in here. All right. So This is the reaction from everyone's favorite glowy, Nick Fuentes, who I would bet any amount of money that this guy is a Fed. I would bet any amount of money. Just don't know how we would ever verify it, but I'm pretty sure he's a Fed. So everyone's favorite instigator here, Nick Fuentes, coming out here complaining, but not complaining, but complaining about Trump's quote unquote admission.
So why did we do stop? So why did we do stop the steal? Why did anyone go to January 6th? Why is anyone sitting in jail? Why did anything bad happen to anybody? Why did everyone get censored? Why is everything bad that has happened to the people that are involved? Why did that need to happen if you're just going to walk it all back and say, oh, I lost? Well, it would have been good to know that before 1,600 people got charged. It would have been good to know that before I had all my money frozen, put on a no.
This is a glowy statement right here.
Fly list, banned from everything, lost all banking and payment processing. Would have been good to know that.
I don't believe that happened.
Before I, in 2017, dedicated my life to this as an 18-year-old in college.
Dedicated your life towards being a glowy.
Just feels like a big ripoff. And don't get me wrong, I'm an adult. It's not whining. I'm not complaining
Sounds like whining
about it. I'm saying you can't say those things for that reason. Don't get me wrong. I don't regret anything, and we all make our choices.
Of course he doesn't regret anything. Is he charged with anything? The only right winger wasn't. And I'm not saying he should have been. I'm just saying, given the parameters and yardsticks for what Merrick Garland was using, he could have been. I mean, look at how they went after look at how they went after what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. The guy who was in a different city, and ended up getting 20 years from the Oath Keepers. Ricky, whatever. Tavares. I think that's right. I mean. So yeah, you tell me, Nick. You tell me. You sound like you're not regretting it. Okay, you sound like you're regretting it.
I don't regret anything, and we all make our choices. And look, it didn't work out. It is what it is. So I'm not mad saying I want those years back. I want those decisions back.
Because you only got wealthier and wealthier. While also being, I don't even understand.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that just goes to show what a tremendous betrayal it is. It's just such a callous indifference to the sacrifices that his supporters made on his behalf.
Okay. So that's an interesting comment. That Trump's quote unquote admission is a betrayal. Well, here's why I disagree with him. But let's just actually hear. Let's hear the purported admission. Gah! Sorry. I forgot about that. We're gonna mute that and just listen to his admission real quick here. His admission.
Became president. Then the second time I've done well with debates. I became president. Then the second time I got millions more votes than I got the first time. So I was told if I got 63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that.
So I was told if I get 63 million, you cannot not win. And I got millions more than that.
And lost by a whisker. And look what happened to the world.
Lost by a whisker.
With all of the wars and all of the problems. And look what happened with inflation, because inflation's just eating up our country.
Is that an admission? Is that what is he really making an admission there? Is he really that's his admission that he lost? I'm going to make a poll. I got to make a poll. do you think that he's saying that sincerely rather than sarcastically? When it starts with, they told me if I would get 63 million votes, I can't lose. And I got millions more than that. But then I still lost by a whisker. I personally think that's Trump being Trump, which is that he's being sarcastic when he's saying he lost. No, you just barely lost, even though you got millions more than what you needed to win. You still barely lost. That's how I heard it. That's how I assume most of you heard it. But I don't want to just put words in your mouth. So I'm going to actually make this a poll. Do you think that he's admitting he lost there? Was Trump genuinely admitting that he lost in 2020? I'll play it one more time here, just so we can actually hear him saying it.
I've done well with debates. I mean, I became president. Then the second time, I got millions more votes than I got the first time. So I was told if I got 63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win.
You can't not win.
And I got millions of more votes than that, and lost by a whisker.
That's the key part. That's the key part. I'm gonna look over in Rumble land. You tell me, okay? Yes, it's an admission, or Y for admission, and for no, it's not an admission. I'll hear it one more time.
63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that, and lost by a whisker. But
all right, everyone in Rumble is writing and no, it's not an admission. The poll, which is still obviously brand spanking new, in case you're joining late, the poll is coming out right now. 91% saying no, it's not an admission. So you tell me why? Why is this guy over here, right-wing conservative over here who really understands everything, and he's saying,
so why did we do Stop the Steal? Why?
What the heck are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about. You think he made an admission here? That's how are you hearing it that way? And I have 90% of my audience not hearing that as an admission, but you're you're sitting here whining like a lunatic, like putting forward this crazy narrative that's what he's saying. In that context, they told me that if I get 63 million, you can't not win. I got millions more than that, and yet I lost by a whisker. How can that possibly, someone who's sitting there and has listened to him and has actually understood what he's saying? I don't understand the people coming back from that he's saying that he actually lost. Now, I do think it's actually pretty shrewd the way he said it. I think it's pretty intelligent the way he said it. The reason I think it's intelligent the way he said it is because by framing it in that way, he basically it's good for him to have people think, oh, okay, he's coming around. The people who are in the middle, like, oh, he's not still. It's much better for him to be doing that, to be saying they stole it from me, they cheated from me. No one wants to hear him complaining about that. No one wants to hear him complaining about that. I'm much happier for him to sarcastically say, yeah, I barely lost. Yeah, okay. They said if I get 63 million, I can't lose. I got 75 million, and somehow I lost. And somehow I lost. Okay. Yeah, that's an admission. That's a real admission. I don't know anyone who's not a crazy leftist who would actually take that as being some sort of admission. So why is Nick Fuentes taking it that way? What's wrong? Nick, how are you hearing it that way? That's crazy. It's a crazy read. And here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that I just want to point out about what Nick Fuentes was whining about, even though the not whining whine. What I want to point out is the reason that people went there on January 6th was not simply because Donald Trump was supposed to be the winner. It was about transparency in the integrity of our elections. That's why we went there. Even if somehow he did lose, we still had to go there. We still should have gone there. Never should have gone into the Capitol. But even if he actually had lost, if you look at it, if God came from down on high and said, I counted the votes and he actually lost, okay, I'll tell you, we still had to go there on January 6th. We still needed a presence on January 6th to say, no. You're not running elections behind closed doors, with closed windows, with crazy counting things and shoving away the GOP watchers. We're not having this lack of clear integrity, clear actual integrity, transparent integrity. You sit here screaming for years on end that this guy's worse than Adolf. The next thing you know, you're going to go count ballots. You're going to go count ballots and ignore signature verification. Basically, do everything you can to accept anything that might somehow have the word ballot written on it, even if it looks nothing like a real ballot. No, that's not okay. Whether or not he won or lost, that's had nothing to do with that. So I don't know what you're whining about, Nick Fuentes. I don't know why you're crying. I don't know what you're screaming about like, it would have been helpful to know that 4 years ago. Because A, he wasn't making a mission. He still thinks he won, and properly so, because he did. And B, even if he had lost, we're there not because we just want to have Trump in power, but because we need to have transparency in the integrity of our elections. Otherwise, what is the point to having an election? What's the point to having a democracy if nobody can feel like their vote counts? How on earth is that actually having the democracy that the left is always screaming about? It's not. It's not anything. So that's why I say to you, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're screaming about. I don't know what you're whining about. A, he didn't make any sort of admission. And B, even if he had, that wouldn't change the need for MAGA to go out there and say, you know what? Foundational American values say that we need to have transparency and integrity of our elections. Otherwise, don't even bother holding them. Don't even bother holding them. Because all you're doing, the purpose of holding an election, I'm going to make this clear to you, the only reason you have an election that you have no transparency of integrity is because you want to deceive people into thinking that they actually have a voice when in fact they don't have any. That's the only reason. The only reason is to lie to you so you feel like there's still democracy. Otherwise, there's no point to having an election. If people are able to go off behind closed rooms and just count infinite number of ballots. If we're not going to have transparency and integrity of elections, there's absolutely no point to having an election. Zero. Because all it does, it's going to cause more strife no matter who the winner is. I don't know why this is like a confusing concept to anybody. Mary Coppola, gifting 5. Count them, 5. Good Lawgic memberships. I'm not sure if I caught who you brought into the fold. I might have missed it. I know you sent this. God bless you, Mary. During a Ravens game, comes on in here and drops 5 Good Lawgic memberships. That's true loyalty. I did. Welcome to the following. The following people are brought into the following program. And that is Dirk Diggler, Waffle Ganger, Philip Smith, Really Now, and Dog Backwards. Welcome to the following, you fine people. You amazing, awesome, beautiful, wonderful people. Welcome to the following. Please bear in mind that the following is not some sort of laudatory way of making Joe feel good about himself so he doesn't, he doesn't go back to smoking cigarettes. No. The following is purely about personal growth. That's what it is. It's about personal growth through stronger community, unity, and leadership training. That's what it is. So welcome to the following. No Kool-Aid. Got that out of the way. All right. You get the bigger plaque, you get 100K before August. Let's go. Let's party. There you go. Why does it matter if he admits or not? It was sarcasm and distraction from the current situation with this election. We know what happened. Yeah. I would have gone through the whole interview there. It's just that, and it's nothing personal against Lex Friedman. Nothing personal. Seems like a nice enough fella. I haven't heard him say anything that made I think he does a pretty nice job of staying very even-handed. His voice just makes me unsettled. It does. It puts me to sleep and yet makes me agitated at the same time. It's like decaffeinated coffee. It's like it's not keeping me awake, and it's making me feel stressed. I don't know what's happening with it. That's what his voice does to me. I don't know why. Yes, exactly my point before. Stay based. You're welcome. That's the first super chat you said. So it's not exactly your point before. Not exactly. I'm just busting. I'm just busting your last test. I've got the game of muting earplugs in. LOL. Can't miss Joe or my Ravens. I feel very honored to be up there with the Ravens. Please don't spoiler it for me. Please don't. I have Isaiah Pacheco against me in one league, and I've got Derrick Henry against me in the other league. I saw Derrick Henry had a touchdown, and I have Justin Tucker going for me in both leagues. So we'll see what happens. I'll check it out like on fast speed motion after I finish working at night. That's what I do on Thursday nights. All right. With that, next story up. Hunter Biden. This story comes to us courtesy of Ed Morrissey. Some of you may remember Ed. Do you remember Ed Morrissey? Do you remember Ed Morrissey? He was on Matt Walsh with me. He was. I meant to pull this clip up before. See if it comes up this way. Well, doesn't seem like God wants me to find this too quickly. So I'm gonna. Oh wait, is this it? No, that's not the right one. For a second, it seemed like God was giving me redemption there. I was seeing some redemption. Let me see if this is it. Let me see if this is the right one. I did find it. I did get redemption. Thank you, God. All right. This. Make it big. I knew I met this guy. This guy was awesome. If you see this here, this is from when I did a reading from the Trump trial of the transcript of Michael Cohen. Sitting below me is Ed Morrissey.
Yes, sir.
And then, do you recall your conversations with Mr. Lydon again during that period in early October 2016? He was asking you to find somebody to help invest with you to find a client who has the funds.
Anyway, he's playing the role of, I think, attorney Emil Bove, and I'm playing the role of Michael Cohen here. That is Ed Morrissey. He is a writer who made an appearance here, and this episode of Good Lawgic was actually clipped by Matt Walsh and used for one of his segments. He wrote today, Ed wrote today, Hunter says, on second thought, I am actually guilty. It's pretty funny way of wording it. Well, my. Funny what a little desperation shakes out, no? Hunter Biden tried to end his criminal tax evasion trial with an Alford plea earlier today, which would technically allow him, and especially his father, to maintain his innocence. An Alford plea is when you basically plead guilty without admitting that you committed any of the crimes. That ran into opposition when prosecutors objected to that dodge. Initially, Hunter's attorney, Abby Lowell, objected to the objection. So the prosecutor's like, we don't want him to have an Alford plea. We want there to be an admission of guilt. Abby Lowell said, you don't get to decide that. So DOJ said, quote, I want to make crystal clear the U.S. opposes an Alford plea. Hunter Biden is not innocent. He's guilty. Leo Wise, an attorney working for special counsel David Weiss, told the judge, we came to court to try this case. Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, noted that Alford pleas are an option available to all criminal defendants. even though such plea agreements are relatively rare. Quote, all over the U.S., people do this, Lowell said. It's not that Hunter Biden seeks special treatment, but that he gets the same rights as everyone who is charged. Weiss charged Biden last year on 9 tax-related counts, accusing him of failing to pay at least $1.4 million in federal taxes from 2016 to 2019. 3 charges were felonies, 6 were misdemeanors. They include failing to file and pay taxes, tax evasion, and filing false tax returns. Frankly, Lowell seems closer to the mark here. That's his counsel, his defense counsel, saying that he has a right to an Alford plea. Prosecutors usually require defendants to allocute their crimes in a plea deal, but this wasn't a plea deal. Hunter had planned to enter the plea without any consideration from either the prosecution or the court, essentially throwing himself on the mercy of the court, as I wrote in the earlier post. It's not clear that prosecutors really had any room to block such a plea. If he wants to file an Alford plea, he has the legal right to do it. It's not up to the prosecutors to stand in his way on it. Although perhaps some restriction in federal law may create an obstacle. It's all moot now, though. CNN reported within the last hour, Hunter has abandoned the Alford plea and will now just enter a guilty plea and acknowledge that his behavior was indeed criminal. Hunter's offering to plead guilty to the 9 tax offenses he faces in federal court without a deal with prosecutors, his attorney said in court Thursday. Biden had earlier attempted to resolve his federal tax evasion case in California with a plea in which he would maintain his innocence but still accept punishment. The arrangement wouldn't have become final until District Judge Mark Scarsi, a Trump appointee who had presided over the tax case, gave his stamp of approval on open court. He said Thursday that he would make the decision at a later date. This type of arrangement, which is called an Alford plea, would have seen Biden acknowledge that special counsel David Weiss has enough evidence to convict him, and then he would accept whatever sentence Scarsi eventually hands down. But in a surprising turn, Thursday, Biden's team changed course and instead said Biden is prepared to admit that his conduct satisfied the elements of the tax offenses with which he had been charged. According to ABC News, all it took was yet another federal judge expressing skepticism over Hunter's attempt to some sort of deal. Funny how that happens. The president's son initially offered a so-called Alford plea in which he would agree to a guilty plea on the counts, but maintain his innocence, which you can understand politically why that would make Hunter and Joe Biden look better. Now, obviously, the politics of this whole situation seem far less significant in a situation that we are living in now where Joe is not the presidential nominee. But still, he's the one thing we know he's committed to is his quote unquote legacy, which is why they keep fluffing him and saying what a wonderful president he was. Straining credulity when they say it. But so that's obviously what they promised in return. That's the carrot they offered him for stepping down, that they're going to tell the world what a great president he was. When prosecutors opposed that path, and U.S. Judge Mark Scarsi pressed some hesitation, granting it, attorneys Hunter Biden said that he would enter a traditional guilty plea. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to admit something to you right here and now. I don't know why. I'm wondering if procedurally they can be more aggressive with him on a meaning maybe they're not forming a written deal. Maybe there's no written deal. But I think it's very likely that maybe they said, well, our recommendation will be more generous to Hunter if he pleads guilty. And let's face it, it's not like the politics on this matter anymore. Joe's not running anymore. So let him plead guilty and we'll be lighter on the sentence. And frankly, I don't expect him to spend 10 seconds in any sort of prison. And I don't say, and that's one of the reasons I haven't really invested a great deal of time in the Hunter Biden criminal trial. And I also I have enough integrity to admit that if my child, if I was president of the United States and my child was looking at conviction of a crime that was not a violent crime, I'd pardon him. I would. I'd take the hit. I would pardon him rather than seeing him go to jail. I would. And I think most of you would too. I think that 98 out of 100 people would do that, if not more. I think everyone would pardon him. It's your kid. It's not a violent crime. So when it's not a violent crime, it just you just sort of feel like, yeah, you'd pardon him. So when Joe Biden pardons him, which I expect to happen, assuming that he's set to face any jail time, when Joe pardons him and breaks his promise that he's not going to pardon him, when he does that, which will likely be after the elections, I'm not going to be so aggressive in going after him on it, because I think that's what a parent does. A violent crime is different. A violent crime, because there you sort of feel like there's a victim who is entitled to their justice, and you're looking out for your selfish interest in depriving that victim and their family of the justice. But for a financial crime, he's paid everything back. Yeah, all of us would do it. I'm just being real. Hey, I want to say hey, you, Joe. Thank you, Petty Eddie. I appreciate that. Biden is a lame duck POTUS. He'll pardon if necessary. Of course he will. Hey, Joe, do you have a P.O. box? I have a super cool thing, a surprise, but my HOA sucks. I used to. I don't have it anymore. I'd like to send it to you rather than let it go to waste. I used to. I don't get requests like that often enough. It comes in like twice a year. Like twice a year, I'll get something like that. Someone saying they want to send me something. I used to, but I don't know. If you send me an email, I can give you an address to send it to. Send me an email. I can send you an address to send it to. And thank you. It's very thoughtful. This shows that Joe is stepping down really soon. Does it? Why? Why do you have that read, Wellesley? I don't really see how I have that. I meant to cover some rants that came in earlier. I pulled it up here when I was covering this story. Where were you? There was at least 2 rants that I saw. Johnny Reb says, manufacturer talking about against the people the left hates, nothing burger. I haven't gotten to that story yet. So, I assume you're talking about the attacks on the right-wing media, alternative media. Denise says, these people grasp at any straw to find fault with Trump. They're extremely desperate. Oh, yeah. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. All right. I think it's time for me to move on to the next. I got so many different stories I need to cover with you guys tonight. So let me move on to the next one. This it? No. This is where I want to go next. All right. So this one is I'm going to save the Lauren Chen, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny story for last. I want to get in on. I want to have a conversation with you about the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. So most of you are familiar with the fact that there was a school shooting yesterday, and it was obviously a terrible tragedy. With, I believe, 4 people being murdered and 2 counts of second-degree murder, 8 counts of cruelty to children. This is what he. Let me pull this up here. Let me pull this one up. No, that's not the way. I'm just going to get it on the story itself. Georgia Bureau of Investigation has arrested 54-year-old Colin Gray, the father of 14-year-old suspected Appalachia high school shooter Colt Gray. Colin is being charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. That sounds like life in prison. These charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son Colt to possess women. These charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son Colt to possess a weapon, said GBI Director Chris Hosey during an 8 p.m. press conference Thursday. You know what? Let's pull it out. Colin was with his son Colt during an interview last year with the Jackson County Sheriff's Office after the FBI connected threats made on Discord server to the then 13-year-old. No probable cause was found during that investigation, but the school was notified about the incident. The family would then move to neighboring Barrow County, enrolling Colt into Appalachia High School. Okay. I'm going to pull up that interview. Let's see. I haven't seen the interview yet. Hopefully it's not too long. Let's get that conference.
Governor Kemp
Oh, that's not
been
good.
with me and been talking with us today.
We could do better than this. There you go. Come on.
For 11 Alive News.
Receiving that in.
Come on.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Dickerson. Thank you for joining.
Counts of involuntary manslaughter is Colt Gray's father that was arrested yesterday. He is charged with the following: 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Mr. Gray, these charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son, Colt, to possess a weapon. This is a very difficult time, as we know, for students and parents. And
so what are your thoughts on that? I'm very curious about your thoughts on this. We're charging the father for allowing his son to possess a weapon. Even the phrasing itself should be kind of chilling. Do you think that's okay? Yes, that's the whole point. Dad has been officially charged, making him the third parent in American history to face criminal charges for the school shooting. And the only other two parents are both the parents of Ethan Crumbley, who were convicted for Ethan's shooting. That was obviously in Minnesota. No, excuse me, Michigan. Obviously not Minnesota. It was obviously in Michigan. And now we're here in Georgia. And Colt's dad is being charged with his 4 counts of manslaughter, 2 of second-degree murder.
So many, I know, of students and parents here in this county and around this state are afraid. You all have likely seen reports of incidents of other students making threats today at various schools around our state. In each of these incidents, police, law enforcement took charges, they made arrests, acted very swiftly, as we take incidents like this very seriously across this state. This is a time for all of us as a community and a state to come together and remain vigilant. Students must be supported and encouraged.
I don't know what vigilance means in this context. Like, you stay vigilant to protect yourself from like a threat. I don't know what vigilance means in this context, but
here in this community and across the state to contact a member of their school faculty with any and all concerns of suspicious activity that they may see. Local, state, and federal law enforcement will continue to work together around the clock in relation to this incident here and any other incidents that come up around this state that raise concern to the safety of our students, faculty, and citizens here in the state of Georgia. Additionally, Colt Gray, that was arrested yesterday for this incident, has now been charged with 4 counts of felony murder. And again, we will continue to work tirelessly to complete this investigation as we move forward. I will go ahead and mention to you, and as I say sometimes, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to you. As y'all all know, that this is a murder investigation. It is a very serious investigation, one that we take serious, one that we will continue to diligently work on and be very thorough with it with the GBI and our local partners here. So you'll have to forgive us if we don't answer a lot of the questions that you ask. I know you have many, and we wish we could answer many of them for you, but we still obviously want to maintain the integrity of this investigation because it has a long way to go for it to be finished. Again, I also want to remind everyone that we need to continue to pray and support the victims that were involved here, the school teachers, the faculty, the students, obviously those that lost their lives, their families, and those that were injured. So I'd like to call on the sheriff to come and give you a brief update on the status of those that were injured from yesterday's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hosey. As Director Hosey said, I'd like to say that obviously we're lifting up those families. Our hearts are hurting for them, our kids, our students, our teachers. But the 9 injured, I am very happy to say will make a full recovery. And that's a testament to the response that we had, in my opinion, the response that medical staff responded with, in my opinion. And we're very happy to say that they will make a full recovery after that response. Again, please lift up our community. Please keep these children, these teachers. We call them teachers, but I call them heroes. We met with them today. Emotions are very high, obviously.
So Denise says, no, parents should not be charged unless they intentionally gave the weapon to the child with the knowledge that they were going to commit a crime. Why aren't they charging the FBI? They knew. I can draw a distinction between, the FBI weren't the ones who gave him a gun. When I first heard about him being arrested, I took this very same strong stance that you're taking. And I'm not saying I've come off that stance, but I'm certainly not as aggressive about it, given the fact that they told him that he's a threat.
But we told them that we love them, we love our teachers and what they do, and we're very happy at the fact that they stood in the gap.
He gave him the gun to answer your question, Forsaken. He gave him the gun after. He gave him the gun after, I think, Christmas time. So, and he heard about this threat report like a year ago. So several months after hearing about that is when they gave him the gun. That's what they're saying. See, that's kind of crazy.
Between evil to protect their children, and we want to include them in the lives that were saved as well yesterday. But I wanted to report to you that all 9 people that are injured will expect to make a full recovery. Thank you.
Are they still in the hospital?
Several of them are still in the hospital. Some have been released.
And Director, can you please explain, did the father actually give the gun to the suspect?
Well, I'm gonna leave it as how I mentioned it in the release, that he knowingly allowed him to possess the weapon.
Director, can you tell us about?
Knowingly allowed him to possess the weapon. So not that he gave, maybe not that he gave him the gun, but knowingly allowing him to possess the weapon. That changes things, doesn't it? That changes the whole equation. I don't know. That if he didn't give him the gun, but knows he has it and doesn't stop him from having access to it. So that I have a bigger problem with. Let me know when they start charging parents of the 13 percenters.
How the arrest happened today? Did you turn himself in? Did you guys make contact with them? How did that go with investigators this afternoon with that arrest?
I'm honestly not familiar with the details.
Okay.
All I can tell you is that he is in custody at this time.
And is it likely that anyone else will be arrested in this case, or is that still just being
It's difficult to say at this point.
That's a question. That question is, are you going after the mom? That's really what the question is, I think. I don't know enough about his family life to tell you.
We're obviously still investigating this, following all leads, all evidence, and we'll set to see where it takes us as we progress forward.
Do you believe that the arrest should have been made sooner?
The arrest was made when we had the probable cause to make the arrest.
Do we know when his first court appearance will be?
I'm not sure. No.
Did the dad bring him to school?
I'm not sure about that either. I'm sorry.
Are you able to explain the charges and how he has more charges than the suspected shooter?
Not in great detail. The biggest thing, as I mentioned earlier, is that he is in custody.
There are four victims who died, from what I understand. So I assume that when they say 2 counts of attempted murder and 4 of manslaughter, it's that the 2 of those manslaughters they're trying to make attempted murder. I don't know why some of them he would be more guilty of than others. Either it's whatever level of guilt he has for one of them being murdered, you would think he would be equally liable for the second one, for the other 2 also, right? I mean, I don't. It seems as if there's a lot of facts we don't know yet, which makes it difficult to really fully assess this. And the reason I want to make this point, I can definitely paint scenarios for you where you would agree with me that the parent should. It makes sense to criminally charge the parent, and there are different extremes, and it's really dependent on if you know that this kid, has been threatening that he wants to kill some kid in his school, and and keeps going on and on about how he wants to kill some kid in his school. You come to the next day, you're like, hey, here's a gun. I can understand people saying that's insanity. In other words, I don't know about calling it murder too. Manslaughter is like when you're a step removed. Manslaughter is a lower level murder. So it's more of an accidental death. So, if the kid is swearing up and down, and he seems like a hostile, violent kid, and he's displayed violence in a lot of different ways, and he says he wants to kill someone, he wishes he had a gun, and then you're like, oh, here's a gun. You can understand saying, okay, that's someone who should be charged. On the other hand, given the current cultural climate, it seems as if this is an effort to try and punish gun owners and say, hey, if you allow your kids to handle guns and one of them goes cuckoo, that we're going to hold you criminally liable. And that's a way of chilling parents from ever allowing their kids to access guns. That would be the purpose in charging them. Is that this way you figure you'll get lots of parents to say, I'm not letting my kid get hold of a gun. If I do that, I can spend the rest of my life in prison. So, which is kind of horrifying. The issue really comes down as far as, intent, mens rea, and then what you consider reckless. A murder 2 charge implies this guy had the intent to have this, meaning the dad had the intent for the kids to die. So that's a very, very strange charge, which it seems as if we're going to need to know a lot more about the story to understand how it is that he could possibly have the intention, unless he pat him on the back and said, go shoot those kids. It doesn't seem likely given the current circumstances. We know this was his second full day in this school. So it's not like these kids, it's not like he had a relationship with any of these kids. I think it was his first full day of class. I think he had registration a day earlier, and then he comes to school, and he had transferred from a different school, which I guess the circumstances behind that transfer, and if it was based on violence that he had committed in the prior school, that would be another factor, you would think. But you can understand people saying, you know what, you cannot allow your violent kid who expresses intention to do harm to others to have access to a gun. I can understand that without saying that that's a bunch of crazy anti-gun nuts. And I know a lot of you will be saying, no, then you shouldn't let him have a car either because he could run into people. And maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't. So what I basically want to say when I tweeted this out, I actually tried tweeting out about this. And here's a crazy thing that I don't know what happened. I wrote a joke, sent it. It showed as sort of a ghost image in my timeline. And I looked 5-10 minutes later to see, because I can start getting a feel for how popular a tweet is, over the first 5 minutes or so, see whether it's getting traction or not. So I went to look for it, and I see it as a ghost image, and then it vanished. And I was like, whoa, maybe my little joke here pushed the wrong buttons and X deleted it. I was like, do I want to resend it? I don't know. That sounds like I was feeling a little nervous about what I had written in the first place. I was like, this might be taken the wrong way. This might be taken the wrong way. I basically made a comment about how obviously the shooting is horrible. It's a terrible tragedy. But we're going to start charging parents for the destructive actions of their deranged children. Somebody should give Harry Sisson's folks a heads up. And I thought it was nice, no one's going after his folks for the lunacy the destructive lunacy he drops on the world. But that got chewed up by X, and I was like, I don't know if that was a glitch. It's either a glitch or someone at X chewed it up. Something happened to that post that no one saw, because I was like, how does it have 0 likes? That's not possible. That's not possible. It's not possible to have 0 likes. I should be getting notifications about you've gotten 40 likes or something like that. Sometimes, they max out at 99. If you have more than 99 likes, they're just going to tell you more than 99 people have liked this, and it doesn't matter. It could be 102 people. It can be 100,000 people. So they'll say more than 99. But yeah, I don't know. I am curious about your thoughts on this, though. This wouldn't happen if they just put lithium in the water. Okay. Start charging parents in Chicago for drive-bys. That's never going to happen. This is totally a white parent crime, right? It is. It's a white parent crime. Don't tell me it's not a white parent crime. It is. 27 states have child access laws. All guns have to be secured, preventing a minor's access, unaccompanied by a parent, and many impose criminal liability. So you're saying they should be able to handle it given certain circumstances. I agree with that. The 2 murder charges relate to child harm leading to death. 2 deaths were teachers. But why they murder, not manslaughter? Why would it? I don't understand that. You want me to read the statutes? Okay, that's like this school did not get an alert from FBI about prior interview. Apparently not. Although to be fair, it was like he had just transferred there. So 16 and pregnant, try baby daddy for child support. Denise says, and not teaching kids the proper way to handle a gun is very dangerous. I grew up with guns in the house. My dad taught all 4 of my siblings and I how to handle and that they were not toys. I agree with you. I actually think that, and it is definitely a slippery slope, Denise. What I would say is, if you ask me, healthy education that we have today would be very different from the education that Americans, that most schools have. Okay, and a healthy education system today, before they get to certainly by high school, in high school, they'd be learning things that they should be learning, and in many cases used to be learning, and we stopped, like civics, like first aid, like self-defense, like proper handling of a gun, like shop, or some other skill where they're actually using their hands to produce something so that they can feel like productive members of society. These should be mandatory parts of curriculum in every school education system across all 50 states. Okay? First aid. Think about how many lives would be saved if everyone graduating high school knew for basic first aid. How many lives would be saved every year? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands? Basic first aid. Civics. Self-defense. And by the way, yes, martial arts. It makes you feel like you actually have, it builds your confidence. There's nothing more important in teaching a kid than teaching them to actually have genuine self-confidence. And part of self-defense is learning how to handle a gun properly, responsibly, like an adult, recognizing that it is a serious thing. You don't just play games with it. You have to know how to, you have to to learn basic rules about firearm safety. And something that they can do with their hands. Like I said, it could be shop, it could be plumbing, I don't care. Teach them all how to do something with their hands. At least basic, rudimentary level stuff. So they actually can learn to, get something done. Makes you feel good when you learn a skill. And you can leave it open to male and female, so no one thinks it's sexist. Various other handiwork type of skills. Why is it instead? Trust me, it's a lot better than whatever they're teaching them in sex education. This is more important. Any one of those courses. Sex education, they can figure out on their own, most of them. So, when I'm unanimously declared king of the universe, that is what will be implemented in all 50 states. But that unanimity may take a while. Kid looked medicated, wondered if after FBI visit had kid in therapy and felt he was doing good, why dad got him the pew-pew. So this is something that actually the Michigan Supreme Court raised in the Ethan Crumley case, which they were saying a lot of kids help learn to deal with their depression and other mental issues by learning firearms. It's a potentially healthy direction for a kid. So why should we charge a parent for enabling that? So this is where I'm landing on this whole thing. I'm starting with a notion that these charges are wrong, and that this is basically an effort to try and punish Second Amendment advocates and those who actually enjoy their Second Amendment rights, and try to scare them and chill them out of ever giving any of their kids access to anything so that they don't end up in prison if their kid goes nutso on them one day. And that's where I'm starting, that this is wrong and that this is just furtherance of the whole crumbly mess that Michigan started. It's just a further devolution of our judicial system, and try and point fingers at people we don't like their politics, so we're going to use lawfare to try and punish them when something bad happens. Or in the case of Donald Trump, even if nothing bad happens. But that does not mean, I have not heard the state's case yet. And it is possible that the state could make a sufficient case where I'd be like, this seemed pretty reckless. I don't know how it would ever get to murder too. Maybe if it's like excessively gross recklessness, it goes to murder too. Let's see what we got here. This is Georgia Code. A person commits the offense of murder when he unlawfully and with malice or forethought, either express or implied, cause death of another human being. Express malice is deliberate intention to unlawfully take a person's life, take the life of another human being, which is manifest by external circumstance capable of proof. 1 second degree. Person commits the offense of murder in the second degree when in the commission of cruelty to children in the second degree, he or she causes the death of another human being irrespective of malice. So that's the cruelty to children charge together with the manslaughter becoming murder. A person commits, this is what you were telling me, read the statutes. So that's how you get to second degree murder, because it's involving children. Person convicted for the offense of murder shall be punished by death by imprisonment for life. Murder in the second degree shall be punished for imprisonment for not less than 10 nor more than 30 years. Yeah, that's kind of harsh. That's kind of rough. That's really rough. Again, so I don't want to weigh in definitively and say this is a crazy charge, because I don't know. I don't know enough about the background story here as to like how big a lunatic this kid was, what the parents knew, the timing of factors, all of those things I think become very important as far as trying to decide whether charges should be brought here, much less whether or not he should be convicted. I'm starting at a place of the state is hot garbage, and I don't trust them. And I assume that this is their way of trying to mirror what's happening in Michigan, which was lunacy. What happened in Michigan? Lunacy. It was not justice. That was, in my opinion, a perversion of justice. I don't know that it's a perversion of justice in this case. It's very possible what the father did here was far more egregious than what the Crumblies did. We don't know. We don't know. I will tell you this. I mean, it's not like he had a lot of time to monitor his kid in school and say, oh, my kid hates this school, and if I give him access to a gun, he's going to shoot them up. He literally just showed up there a day less than 36 hours earlier was the first time he stepped foot in the school. Scary thought, giving most students today dangerous tools. You have to teach them self-confidence. You have to. Does anyone disagree with any of the courses that I say should be mandatory? No, it's not public yet. At least as far as I know. This story only broke late this evening. Or early, I think around 4:30, 5 o'clock. So, all right. I think it's time for us to get to our feature, right? Oh, this is the picture of. Here's a picture of him being charged, in case you're wondering. That's Colin Gray, father of Georgia school shooter Colt Gray. It's an awful story for everyone involved. Okay. Let's get into Tim Pool, Lauren Chen, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, and what is going on. What's going on? The father knew that the kid had investigated last year for trying to shoot up a school last year on social media. That seems like a red flag. Yeah, it does. It does. I'm not going to kid you. That does. If that's the other thing is, what did the FBI talk to him about? And I think there was talk about him threatening to shoot up a school. So that being the case, when he's threatening to shoot up a school and now you give him access to a gun, I can understand people saying it's a fair charge. Someone tells you he wants to do something evil and vile, and you make it possible for them to do it, especially if he gave him the gun. I have more difficulty if he didn't give him a gun and just didn't stop him from once he knew he had it. Because that now becomes like a duty to parent to stop your kid and save the world from your terror kid. I can understand it though. I can. Because if you're not going to stop him, who the hell will? In other words, I can hear an argument. I can hear a moral argument that would say, if we don't get you to stop him, who the heck will? He's expressed a desire to take out a school, and you're now coming forward and basically saying, "Oh, that's cool by me. I'm not going to warn anyone that he's a menace or that he has access to a gun and he's threatened to shoot up schools before, or try to take the gun away from him." Definitely seems like it's a white parent crime, though. Definitely seems like if he was a black parent, there was no way he'd be charged. And it could mean that too, that he had no gun safe. But that still doesn't enable him to access it. And it's a fair point also, the situation in which he was talking. It's the seriousness of the comment. These are relevant factors too. But at this point now, we're talking about once we're getting to this level, though, that's already something where it's like, okay, now maybe we need to have a trial to sort of have a hearing and determine whether or not this was something serious, right? Now those become questions of fact. I took metal shop, wood shop, auto mechanics, and engineering drawing in school, home ec as well. Yeah, because school is supposed to teach you to be a functioning adult. In a healthy society, school is supposed to teach you to be a functioning adult and should not be teaching you your morality. should have no influence on your morality and should instead be teaching you to think and how to function as an adult, to survive in an adult world. Morality should be taught by your parents and or your local religious affiliation chapter. But yeah, there's good questions. I don't know why they're not. Why are they not? It's a good question. It's a great question. I don't want them teaching ethics. I don't want them teaching ethics. Philosophy, maybe. Ethics, no. Because I don't think that any of these teachers are look at the teachers we have. I'm sure many of them are great people. I'm sure many of you are probably teachers. But we have to account for all the teachers that are out there. And far too many of them are more of a menace than teaching them nothing about ethics. Remember the Colorado Gay Club Pew Pew's father? He should have been arrested. He found out about the shooting and said, oh God, he's not gay, is he? I didn't know he said that. Wow. What a jackass. Wow. Wow. What scum. That is so scummy. Wow. That's terrible. All right. So in case you're wondering what's going on with Lauren Chen, I gave her a little Ruski hat. I'm going to make an admission to you. Okay. I don't know if this is ever going to be watched by Tim Pool or not. I'm going to make a little admission to you. When I was making this thumbnail, I almost put something in this thumbnail that's not there. I almost put something in the thumbnail that's not there. And I was like, and I actually asked Lady Lawgic about this. I was like, should I leave this in or not? Because this makes the picture so much more jolting, but it really might piss Tim Pool off. And I was like, he seems really averse to ever having me on his show anyway. I was like, I don't know. A man could dare to dream. A man could dare to dream. I'm going to go forward and tell you this. Before I go any further with this story, everything I've read about this story, and I went through the charges, and they're lengthy charges, very wordy charges. I will tell you this. I personally, in my heart of hearts right now, do not believe that Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, or Dave Rubin were knowingly a part of anything related to Russian information or disinformation or whatever, Russian propaganda. I do not believe that either of those three gentlemen, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, or Dave Rubin, were knowingly participating in any sort of Russian disinformation. I want to make that 100% clear. That being said, and I mean that, I'm not walking that back with what I'm about to share with you here. But I will tell you that when I was making this thumbnail here, I was so tempted. I even had it all set up to go. I was so tempted with that beanie just to sort of put like a little patch in the center of his beanie here. Just because I thought it'd be funny. I thought that'd be really funny. I was like, that's such a better thumbnail. It's such a better thumbnail with that. That's one little thing changes the whole thumbnail. But I was like, man, if I was Tim Pool and I saw someone did that, I would be ticked. I'd be ticked off at that person. So that's why I was like, And I don't, especially since I don't really believe that he was knowingly participating in anything. So I showed it like this to Lady Lawgic, and I said, do I leave the patch in or not? Do I leave the little Russian patch in there or not? And she's like, no. So I'm like, all right, take it out. We'll take it out. Now, Lauren Chen, however, her involvement in this story, as alleged, is far more significant than these other three gentlemen. Far more significant. Far, far, far more significant, purportedly. Before I go any further, I want to share one more thought with you, which is the DOJ lies all the time. All the time. All the time. It's hard for me to look at them as having very much more sincerity than actual Russian disinformation. They lie all the time. I will also point out to you that the timing for this story seems purposefully designed to disenfranchise alternative media sources of medium or alternative news providers from being taken with credibility on the basis that they're all Russian assets. The first thought I had is, this is hot garbage. Every word of this is hot garbage. That was the first thought I had. And I still believe that a lot of it is. I will tell you, I read through the complaints. The complaint is very detailed. It's a very fact-rich complaint. They spent a long time investigating this, and they have tons of allegations in there, basically portraying, and I'll give you the overview of this story. Essentially, what they are saying is that Russian media agency Russia called Russia Today, which has admitted that they are state-sponsored and take their orders from the Kremlin, that they are obligated to follow directions from the Kremlin. Apparently, different parties who were working for RT reached out to Lauren Chen, and in large part through using pseudonyms of fictional people, said, we want to sponsor you to start promoting some alternative, to promote more content, and that we want you to bring on other individuals, and we will give you a great deal of money. And we'll give them a great deal of money. So Lauren Chen, and seemingly her husband, she owns this company. She starts this company, Tenant Media, based out of Tennessee. She had a company in Canada. She goes out to Tennessee, opens up Tenant Media in Tennessee, and starts getting paid some money from them. And they pay her money for her content and also for making various financial arrangements with these other content creators. And she ends up helping sell the idea of getting sponsorships from this fictional person whose name is Edward Gregorian. That's the fictional. There is no Edward Gregorian, but she basically was, based on this complaint, led to believe that there was an Edward Gregorian who was a very wealthy individual who wanted to sponsor her and was willing to pay millions of dollars. Like, you're talking like $100,000 a week for like a year. It's like $4 or $5 million to various commentators like Dave Rubin, like Tim Pool, like Benny Johnson. So the problem is that if you're working for someone who is a foreign agent, who's working on behalf of a foreign government, especially if it's a hostile government, you are required under FARA to register as a foreign agent so that people know, oh, okay, this is freedom of speech, but people have to be able to identify the source of that speech. And you're coming out here as an American and you're really propagandizing on behalf of Russia, on behalf of China, on behalf of whatever hostile nation. That's a FARA violation. Lauren Chen has not been charged with a FARA violation. I want to be 100% clear on this. She has not been charged. No one has charged her at all. However, the individuals who hired her, who were retaining her, the Russian individuals who retained her, are two individuals whose names are actually difficult to pronounce. It's certainly difficult for me to remember without actually pulling up the name. Here it is. Here's the actual charges. The individuals who charged her, who worked with her, are Konstantin Kalashnikov and Elena Afanasieva. He goes by Kosti. She goes by Lena Afanasieva. These two individuals have been charged. If you go through this sealed indictment, which obviously has been unsealed now, you will see that it is very, very fact-rich. Meaning there's excruciating detail here about like practically day by day as to like the different communications where they never refer to Lauren Chen by name. Instead, they call her Founder 1 and Founder 2, referencing her and her husband. This is her over here, Founder 1 and Founder 2. She's the owner of U.S. Company 1. That's her tenant. That's supposed to be Tenant Media. And that she's posted thousands of videos that have garnered more than 16 million views. And she never disclosed to her viewers that was funded and directed by RT. Now, they make it very unclear here as to what exactly, and the reason Lauren Chen likely has not been charged yet is because it's possible that she did not have sufficient mens rea as far as recognizing that these individuals were working for, via proxy, working for the Kremlin. Possible. She certainly knew a lot more. The reason why I say that the other three, I give them more of a pass at the outset. I gave them more of a pass is because she was the go-between. She knew a lot more about these two individuals as far as hooking them up and understanding the background, the nature of everything. But if you believe these charges at all, if there's any truth to them at all, and like I said, they are very fact-specific. I'm not going to go through the 32 pages with you here now. I thought about going through the 32 pages. It's a very it's cumbersome because there's so many facts. It's cumbersome because it's not interesting. It's like about this conversation that they had about setting this up and her way of recognizing that she should have recognized. You know, it was pretty clear, and all the different evidence that Edward Gagarin is a fictional individual. They go through some of the conversations between Lauren and various individuals. It seems like Tim Pool. I think they spend most of the time talking about Tim Pool because no one's identified by name other than the defendants here. So when you're talking Lauren Chen, when you're talking Tim Pool, when you're talking Benny Johnson, we could speculate as to who they are, but it gets a little confusing going back and forth because they refer to them as communicators 1, communicator 2, and various conversations that she had with these with communicators where they wanted to know more about the source of the money. They wanted to understand a lot more, like, where are you coming from that you have this money? And that she told them about this Edward Gagarin, who, again, is not a real person, and that these individuals here, by the way, were not actually always working on their own names, that they would communicate via email with Lauren Chen and communicate and like, oh, I'm going to have my secretary contact you. And the secretary would be like, you know, instead of being Elena, it would be like a different last name. That was one alias that she had. Another time she would be like Victoria Pressy. Like she would go by different names and communicate with Lauren Chen via these different names. Sometimes getting the time zones wrong as to where they were, I mean, it's a little bit of a weird story, and like I said, it would take me probably like 3 hours to go through this complaint with you. If there's enough interest in it, if I would have to get a lot of likes on this video for me to go through the entire complaint line by line with you. I would need someone to leave a comment saying, Joe, please go through the complaint with us, and like 500 likes on that comment. If I get that, then I'll go through this. Then I'll go through this whole thing. It's very lengthy. It's very lengthy. And again, these are not charges that are raised against Lauren Chen, not charges that are raised against the other three gentlemen, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, or Dave Rubin. Even if you go through this entire thing, at worst, the worst you can say about the three gentlemen is that they should have been like, this is a buttload of money, and we're not even sure why they're paying us this money. Like, what are they getting out of this? What's the upside for them? It seems as if the content that they were making was pretty similar to the content they were making beforehand. They're just making a fat load of money more. So if I know, this is like me going to a guy who's a lifetime Jet fan and has had season tickets for the last 20 years and telling them, hey, if you go to a Jet game next year, I'll give you $100,000. They'd be like, okay, I'll do that. It's like, they're going to do it anyway. Why are you giving them the money? What are you doing? What's happening here? It's very hard to understand. Now, they did have some sort of editorial control. So perhaps the state will probably say that the objective was to try and tailor some of their content, specifically with respect to the war in Ukraine and the war between Russia and Ukraine, or various other topical issues. But that's essentially what the whole scandal is. Is this embarrassing for the right? You can't say it's not embarrassing, assuming these allegations are true. Because looking at it in the best case scenario, there are definitely flaws in the system. And I'm not saying I would do it better. There are flaws in the system if you don't realize that you're ultimately getting paid. Somewhere along the way, I don't know. It seems as if Tim Pool was like asking for like a CV. He's like, who is this guy? I can't find out anything about this guy. And then they end up sending him a CV. And if they sent the CV, then he's like, at first he's like, I can't find anything about him on Google. This guy, Edward Gagarin, the bio that they created for him was that he was a former investment banker associated with a specific large bank that is blocked out in the charges. And yeah, it's a little bit of a weird story. It's a weird story. Lauren would struggle to get more of a pass. Lauren is certainly, if anyone is going to be charged next, Lauren would be the next one to be charged. I'm not saying she will be charged. I certainly hope she's not charged. But she would be the one who would be charged next, if anyone's going to be charged. From what I've read, she's very quiet about this whole thing. And the comments from these right-wing media individuals is basically like, we had no idea that Russia had anything to do with any of this. So we don't know what the story is. We don't know what the friggin' story is. Lauren has, and most people seem to be accepting that as a good faith response from Rubin, Johnson, and Poole. Lauren has been taking a lot more scrutiny, properly so. Just saying, she seems to like have a lot more recognition. Even though she's referring to them as the Russians, I don't think that saying people are the Russians means that they're Russian. I know that they're part of the Russian government. That's part of what's thrown in the charges. She's always calling them the Russians. Well, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm sure the Russians always call them Americans. That doesn't mean they're part of the American government. People can be Russian without being Russian operatives. But today, the Blaze fired Lauren Chen, and everyone's severing ties. Everyone is running as fast as possible. I will tell you this. When I try finding a picture of Lauren Chen for my thumbnail, This made me laugh. Somehow I clicked on a link. Like I saw a picture of her, and I was like, I clicked on the link so I could just sort of like try and copy the JPEG from them. And this is what I got. 404. I got tpusa.com/Lauren Chen. 404 error. You're wondering something that doesn't work. Please visit our website and return to reality. And it's a picture of like these three communists with like a sickle, the Russian sickle and hammer. That's what you get for Lauren Chen. It's funny. It's funny. It's funny. I'll tell you that much. For now, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she was flawed in her approach here. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she's flawed in her approach. I don't know that that's not true. Flawed in her approach. And because it seems as if, how do you not realize? But the Blaze, let me just let me get some of these chats here real fast. Joe, I have a humble request. If you're still barred in New Jersey, can you write an email for me regarding medicinal smoking and superseding contract? I'm barred in New York, not in New Jersey. So, yeah. I don't know what medicinal smoking and superseding contract. I don't know. Should I check my Venmo? Should I check my Venmo? Did you send my Venmo? Benny is saying lawsuit soon. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to file a lawsuit. Just remove the beanie on Tim Pool. Enough said. He does look very different without that beanie. He really does. Squid says, isn't FAR meant for lobbyists and other similar political things? Not defending Lauren Chen. This sounds like an illegal expansion of the law. I don't think it's an illegal expansion of the law. I don't think it's because the point is that they're lobbying for various political perspectives. So, nice. I like it. You can't afford me for an hour. You can't afford me for it. Well, you probably could. Let me write a letter for you. It sounds like real work. I basically decided once I started doing this show and being able to make a living off of it, I was like, I would have to charge $2,000 an hour for anyone who wants me to do work, but legal work at this point. I was like, I don't want to do legal work. I was like, that'll like discourage anyone from trying to hire me. If I just say, yeah, that's my hourly rate now. It's $2,000. Like, you really don't want to find someone else? You want to find someone else? This feels like an FBI, DOJ, Russia 3.0 sting smear scheme to smear independent conservative influencers. I'm sure the FBI has assets inside RT to work it. I'm going to tell you right now, that's the first reaction I had. This is exactly what you're thinking, Kimmy. I think you're thinking along the right lines. That's the first thought I had. Especially the timing. 2 months before an election, all of a sudden this breaks, like exactly 2 months before an election. Don't believe them. Don't believe right-wing media. They're all Russian hacks. When I tweeted out about this, that I was trying to indicate that. I tweeted out by indication rather than actually referencing this story. But yesterday, when this story first broke, where is it? What did I see? It was such a short little tweet that people really liked. Did I pin it? I might have pinned it. I don't remember what I got here. Yeah, I did pin it. This is my way of saying I agree with Kimmy Hunt, in case people didn't realize it. DOJ. If you believe in American values, you fell for Russia's trap. That's essentially what they're saying. I mean, think of how stupid this sounds. They're just promoting American values, and it's like, oh, wow, you're a victim of Russian disinformation. It's like, it sounds so stupid. It sounds so stupid. So I was every bit as cynical. The other thing I'll point out to you is a FARA violation. It's like, okay. All right. Like, it's not like it's like, this is like, okay. So maybe she's an accessory to a FARA violation. Maybe she herself becomes a foreign agent at some point. She would probably need to have knowledge. And it seems as if, look, when you're reading through those charges, it seems as if she knew a lot. I'm not saying what she knew. I don't know. Seems like she at the very least should have realized that if she did some homework, that some stuff here is not adding up. Maybe not out of the get-go, but at a certain point, there should have been certain red flags. Perhaps. I don't know. I don't think she did anything terrible here. I also don't think that she's curating her content in order to help enable and embolden Russia. I happen to like most of her content. I think that she's pretty good. She's pretty good. I think that, if anything, this reflects more. To me, I think what she did was sloppy. That's what I think. I think what she did was sloppy. And perhaps hungry for money. Like when you see like big checks rolling in, and everything seems on the at least superficially, to be on the up and up, you just be like, all right, I'm not doing anything different anyway. Like, I can understand someone philosophically feeling like there's nothing morally wrong. Like, look, these people want to pay me a lot of money. I'm doing the exact same thing I would have been doing anyway. So I'm going to the same jet game. You want to pay me $100,000 to go to a jet game? I would have been going anyway. So I'm still doing it, and now I'm just getting paid money for it. Okay. That's kind of a good thing. So I can understand them saying, basically, I can understand that there's a certain natural inclination to not investigate too deeply. And apparently some of them did investigate a little bit more deeply. Tim Pool was like investigating to the point where he's like, I can't find this guy on Google. And can you send me a CV so I can like verify that this is a real person? They mocked up a CV and sent it to him. But I want to just go through with you here. The Blaze has fired her. Let me just read for FAQ. It's very broad. Posted to locals. Oh, thank you. I'll try to check it out. Have you heard of the aide that worked for Governor Cuomo and Hochul got arrested for spying for the CCP? Isn't that a bigger story? Interference with politics. Arguably, it is a bigger story. Actually, Lady Lawgic mentioned this story to me right before I came on the air. I hadn't seen it personally. I saw there was another guy associated with apparently there's also, look, yesterday Merrick Garland made a whole announcement about how he's going after different agents. And at first he was like droning on and on. I wasn't even like really listening to it. I started listening to it a little bit more carefully today, where he talks not just going after agents and foreign, like how he's trying to portray it like he's even-handedly trying to stop disinformation from affecting the election. He talks about, Russian agents. He talks about Iranian agents trying to spread anti-Trump rhetoric and them trying to interfere. He talks about China trying to interfere. So, yeah. Same day as Hunter guilty plea. I don't think people care that much about Hunter anymore, though. Once Joe stepped out, Hunter, a lot of the axis of focus does sort of get shifted off, where people are like, who? Oh, yeah, that's right. The former president's son. I think this is a deep state operation. Sean, potential criminal, was doing a full read through when you went live. Switched to hear you, dear leader. Well, that was a wise call on your part. like I said, I thought about doing it, and I was like, this is going to take me 3 hours. It's going to take me 3 hours. And I know, and I have enough experience to know that when I read through a complaint for 3 hours, that's something that's better suited for a smaller audience. I might be able to shove it into an hour and a half if I sort of work through it quickly and don't really give very much feedback. But the problem with that, and I'll just explain to you logistically, okay? This is what happens. Right now, so it's showing I got, I don't know, 1,800 people watching. Okay, fine. People are coming in and out. They're coming in and out. So if you catch me 20 minutes into the read of a legal document, you're lost. You have no way of like really knowing what's happening. So it's like people are like, this is boring and I don't know what the hell he's talking about. So like, why am I here? Like they wouldn't want to be there. It's much better on a locals type of thing, I think. I think it's much better on a locals thing. Joe, please read the complaint. I said it have to be a comment, but thank you. It have to be a comment down below after the thing ends. I wouldn't do it today. I would do it like over the weekend sometime. Fire violations for foreign investments in media. They all have them. Let's start with the New York Times owner, Mexican Carlos Slim. Very slippery slope. I agree with you. And there's obviously motivation there for a political witch hunt, and we see that this is a DOJ which is very inclined towards engaging in political lawfare. So yeah, I'll tell you right now, this smells to high heaven as complete Merrick Garland shenanigans, and I don't trust him at all. All I'm saying is, the only thing I said was there's a lot of facts there. There's a lot of facts in that complaint. It's a lot of facts to tie together that there's a FARA violation here. There's a lot. It doesn't make her a nefarious entity. It doesn't mean that her content is crap or even lacking in credibility necessarily. Frankly, I don't know. What I just said was intentionally inaudible. All right. Sometimes intentionally inaudible is the best way to go. The best way to go. Make sure I didn't miss anything down here from you guys. Okay, we're good over there. Check that out there. Let's check out this story here about developments for Lauren Chen. Blaze fires contributor linked to alleged Russian operation. Ah! What was that? No. A conservative American media company has fired one of the YouTubers implicated in an alleged Russian influence operation exposed by the U.S. Department of Justice this week. Lauren Chen was an independent contractor. His contract has been terminated, Blaze Media CEO Tyler Cardin said in an email to Semaphore. Chen, this is from, I don't even know what Semaphore is. I never heard of them before today. Chen and her husband, Liam Donovan, are the co-founders of Tenet Media, a previously obscure media company that paid eye-popping sums to right-wing influencers to produce videos that echoed Russian propaganda and other right-wing talking points, according to an indictment. She also contributed videos to Blaze TV, an arm of Blaze Media, which was founded by former Fox News host and talk radio figure Glenn Beck, which was not mentioned in Wednesday's indictment. The two Americans were also not named in the indictment, meaning Lauren Chen and her husband Liam, which instead charged two Russians associated with the state-owned Russia Today with money laundering and violating foreign influence laws. Chen didn't respond to an inquiry from Semaphore. She's been very quiet. Who's Ben? Is Ben the author here? Is that Ben Johnson? No, this is Ben Smith's view. I don't know what this is. Let's see what Ben's view is. The Russian government wildly overpaid for online videos that figures like Tim Pool and Ben Johnson would have made anyway, but the new indictments get to the heart of the deep debates in American politics over a Russian role in the rise of Donald Trump's right-wing populism. And after the 20, how long is this? This seems really long. Oh, it's not. Okay. After the 2016 election, Democrats came to believe that Russian interference was the key factor. Many Republicans claim the entire investigation of Russian interference was a hoax, because it was. In fact, Russia invests heavily in interfering with American and European elections, as does China, as does Iran, as do Probably Canada. And the WikiLeaks operation 2016 played a major role in that election, but Russia's investment in fake social media campaigns, and in this case, real right-wing influencers, largely served to amplify, and it's unclear how effectively, existing forces in American politics. Wednesday's indictment was at the same time shocking and unsurprising, revealing a Russian media operation with, above all, a big budget for the 2024 contest. That's okay. It's not a bad view, Ben. What's your name? Ben Smith? That's not a bad job. That's him. All right. It's an interesting take there. I do want to go through this real quick. By the way, I'm going to be having a locals after party after I wrap up over here, in case you join late. Locals after party, I'm going to be covering Tim Crowder's breakthrough. I also thought about covering somebody saying, I'm probably going to end up talking about a claim that was made that it really sounded like he was describing me. That I, yours truly, Joe Neerman, am a Russian operative. Which I guess is fitting for tonight's show. Literally, this guy literally was describing me as being a Russian operative. Which is kind of funny in the context of all this stuff with... That's right. I will go on record and tell you right now, I affirmatively deny being a Russian asset. I've never gotten a penny. Frankly, I haven't gotten a penny in sponsorships from anybody. which is there's something wrong with that. That's a reflection on me, I think. I think that's a reflection on me. But yeah, this guy basically was describing me as being a Russian op. And I was like, I think I take that personally. Well, so I'll probably end up covering that on my locals after show as well. But I want to share with you, before I get on out of here, one last thing here from Luke Radkowski.
I wonder who Vladimir Putin is supporting in 2024.
If we can name a favorite candidate,
This is Luke Radkowski talking about this story.
It used to be Joe Biden, but now he is not participating in the election campaign, and he recommended to all his allies to support Ms. Harris. So that is what we are going to do.
I guess we have a new representative for the white
This
dudes.
is such a great tweet from Lives on TikTok. White dudes for Kamala. That is, I didn't see it until I saw this video. I was like, that is friggin' genius. That is genius. White dudes for Kamala. Let's pull this up here.
Dudes for Kamala.
White dudes for Kamala.
Harris, as I guess that makes all the Democrats right now Putin's puppets. And that's exactly what the corporate media is saying about a lot of independent media right now, a lot of which I personally know, as of course we now have the latest DOJ indictment against Tenet Media, as there's a lot of controversy, conspiracies, and absolutely wild details coming out about this larger hijacking of the narrative that we're all seeing kind of portrayed and talked about right now. As of course, I personally want to talk about some of the money offers that I was offered. I want to talk about some of the things that have happened behind the scenes of what everyone was saying about Tenet Media, as this is a major story, as the corporate media right now is accusing Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, two individuals that I personally know, of, quote, helping spread Russian disinformation on YouTube and X. Now, is that charge true? I don't believe it to be, as of course I will explain why in just a little bit. Wired Magazine has another.
And I'll tell you that I agree with his assessment. I don't think I certainly don't think those gentlemen, I don't think there's anything remotely chargeable against them. And I frankly don't think that they did anything I don't think they did anything differently than very many other persons would have done. I think it's holding them to a very high yardstick to call foul on them based on what we know so far. And I'll apply that to Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, and Dave Rubin.
Headline here saying right-wing influence network Tenet Media allegedly spread Russian disinformation as an unsealed indictment by the DOJ is now alleging that employees of Russian state media contracted for and oversaw the dissemination of Kremlin, quote, talking points by right-wing influencers going on and including Benny Johnson and Tim Pool again in here. And again, I do not believe this to be true, as the corporate media can't even get the right picture of Tim Pool highlighting some plump, fat white guy instead of Tim Pool.
Who is that?
Literally, their cap.
That looks like it's like an AI-generated image of Tim Pool. What would Tim Pool look like 25 years from now?
Option reading here. Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Benny Johnson. They got Dave Rubin right. They got Benny Johnson right. But they can't even find the right picture for Timmy Boy, who is looking more rough than ever. This says, of course, we have to admit here, there's a lot of foreign collusion and intervention in our political discourse. There's a lot of it, especially when you look at things like, the Hunter Biden story with his larger associations with Burisma Oil and many other foreign government-connected businesses that have funneled a huge sum of money into the Biden family. For some reason, we're not talking about that. For some reason, why aren't we talking about all the Qatari money? Why aren't we talking about all the Saudi money? Or dare I say it, even the Israeli money and influence that is in, of course, media right now that is.
Well, look, doesn't mean he actually knows these individuals, and that's why I think his perspective as far as what they knew or didn't know is informative.
Having a major impact on our discourse. Now, for full disclosure, as an independent media organization, we're not taking any money from any foreign governments. We predominantly work for you, and our finances and funding predominantly comes from Luke Unfiltered.
I work for you also, by the way. All the money I make, seriously, this is the source of my revenue. Views on Rumble, views on YouTube, locals, super chats. That's it. That's the source of my revenue. So, to the extent that you guys are all very generous to me, and you traditionally have been very generous, I am my most appreciative. You guys make me able to do what I do. So, thank you.
It's our own Patreon provided or influence, either $8, $15, $90 of value show that we do give away for a major event happening here in Miami, Florida. Or we do for you on an independent, especially with the bombshell of what we're learning about right now, as the DOJ indictment specifically reads that Tim Pool and Benny Johnson were lied to, allegedly by Lauren Chen and her husband, that were hiding the fact of where the money was coming from. And there was a lot of money, as the two reportedly were getting.
That's who it is. It's Tim Drool. Nice.
$1,000 a month. As the people who were receiving this money specifically were saying, hey, where's this money coming from? Rightfully asking, as of course you have to ask these questions now. And according to the indictment, there were very underhanded efforts being made by Lauren Chen and her husband that, of course, lied to them, covered up the fact of where the money was coming from. As I could even personally attest that I was curious about this story myself. But ever since Tenet Media kind of came up, ever since they kind of made their announcement, I was like, who are these guys? Where are they getting their money? I asked everyone, and I talked to a lot of people in the industry, and the scuttlebutt and the conversations that were happening behind the scenes, even with people at Tenet, was specifically what was told to me was that this was money that was specifically coming from family members connected to Lauren Chen that were very successful, had a lot of money, and just wanted to finance a larger kind of new Daily Wire kind of competitor. As
that's not what the complaint charges. The complaint charge is not that the money was coming from her family, but that she told them it was coming from Edward Gagarian with two N's, and and that she even forwarded, I believe, Tim Pool, although I'm not sure which is which when they're referring to Tim Pool versus Benny Johnson versus Dave Rubin, because they're all referred to as communicator 1, 2, and 3. But I believe it was Tim Pool that she even sent a CV. Now, Luke Radkowski here is a regular on Tim Pool's show, so he knows Tim well. And when he's talking about Scuttlebutt, I assume it's not from Dave Rubin, but from Tim Pool's camp. So I'm not sure what he's saying here when he says that the Scuttlebutt, maybe at one point that was the Scuttlebutt, and then that got cleared up. But I believe that Tim Pool knew of the name Edward Gregorian, which was, again, a fake name.
Through me, even asking and finding out what was going on here, there was never any kind of larger admission of, there's, the $10 million that according to...
I want to be clear. I don't know that it was Tim Pool who knew that. It could have been Dave Rubin. It could have been Benny Johnson, but it certainly was one of those three who knew the name and did some further digging and said, I can't find this guy on Google who's supposed to be so wealthy. I can't find his name associated with any bank or anything like that. Who, can you get me his CV? And they provide a CV. In fact, if you go through that complaint, I will share this with you. If you go through that complaint, they show a copy of the CV that was shared. Probably find it pretty cool. There it is. This is the CV that was the fake Edward Gregorian profile CV. Very cool looking CV. Where they're showing his life and education and that he was born in Brussels in 1975 and that he's French Armenian father, Belgian mother, and what his vision is. One of the things that they cite to try, if you want to try and find culpability, because I want to try and scrutinize this fairly, the way Lauren Chen would, is that Lauren was getting paid from different shell corporations, several different international shell corporations from Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and they were constantly confused about what time zone they were in when they were communicating with them. And that the speakers themselves seem to be confused about they say they're in Paris and they're off by an hour on what time it is. And they're like, my thing hasn't synced up yet. Plus, they were getting wire transfers from multiple different shell corporations they formed a contract with that Tenet Media formed a contract and then got paid by multiple shell corporations, which seem to have no relationship at all to the contracting party. So that should raise a flag of why is this company that has no relationship at all paying these vast sums? That if you want to try and say that Lauren should have known that if she was duped, it's because she wasn't really looking. And that's what someone would say. That's what some of the detractors would say that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't know. It's too early for me to weigh in as to her level of negligence here. And I am vigilantly skeptical of the DOJ. Vigilantly skeptical that they're obviously going to be portraying this as harshly as possible against Lauren and the defendants in this particular case. So, but this is the CV that was when, as it says, I'll read this part to you here. So Founder 1 here is a reference to on February 28th, 2023, Founder 1 emailed Persona 1 that Founder 1 had spoken with Commentator 1 because they even had spoken with this quote-unquote Edward Gregorian, which was likely that dude Kostya. And this is when she was trying to pitch them to join in. And on February 28th, Founder 1, every time you see Founder 1 here, that's Lauren. That's almost certainly Lauren Chen. Email Persona 1, which was a different name that the defendants in this case were using, that Lauren had spoken with Commentator 1. So she broke down 3 commentators that she had tried to bring on board and ultimately succeeded in bringing on board. And they would like some material about Mr. Gregorian to learn a bit about who Commentator 1 we were working with. So, and then Founder 1, Lauren said, asked if there were any links press release, interviews, LinkedIn profiles we can forward. And I'm assuming this is Tim Pool. I don't know. That's why I kept saying Tim Pool knew, but I don't, knew something, or at least was trying. Whoever commentator one was trying to do some level of due diligence, saying, I want to know who this guy is I'm working with. And they're trying to find out about this Edward Gregorian. On or about March 2nd, Persona 1, this is an alternate identity for the defendants, responded to Lauren's email writing that they were unsure that Mr. Gregorian gave out any public interviews, but you could send, let's assume this is Tim Pool, but it could be one of the other gentlemen, our LinkedIn page with a hyperlink to a LinkedIn page for Viewpoint Productions. And then Persona 1, which this is supposed to be like a secretary working for these two Russians, but is actually them, also attached a receipt for another $8,000 money transfer from Czech shell entity to Canadian company. Canadian company is Lauren Chen's original company. On or about April 21st, and again on April 24th, Lauren Chen did Google searches for Edward Gregorian and for the bank that he supposedly worked for. As of about August 2024, neither Google search returns any results for a person by that name, much less any web pages describing an Edward Gregorian as a finance professional affiliated with Bank One. So this isn't showing that, he's not there. He's not there. It's not listing on Google. Why would it not be listing on Google if he actually worked there? Some big financier for a bank, you would assume that he'd be listed as a VP or something. On or about April 24th, Lauren emailed Persona 1 that commentator was really insisting on seeing some materials, profile, article, whatever, on Edward before feeling comfortable about moving forward. Is there anything we can provide him with? And they responded that we'll send you a profile on Mr. Gregorian that you could send over to him. On or about May 4th, they ended up forwarding to Lauren a CV to provide to the commentator. So that profile is reproduced with redactions and blurring below, and this is basically the fake CV they created to help Lauren Chen lure that personality, whether it was Pool, Rubin, or Johnson, into coming on board and working with Tenet Media. Bank One's affiliate in the United States has no record of an Edward Gregorian ever being employed, nor is set forth the Google searches for Bank One Edward Gregorian yield any results for a person by that name. So this was all completely fictional. They're even misspelling Gregorian's name, leaving out an N half the time. There's supposed to be two N's, not one. These are all indicia, in case they decide going after Lauren Chen, these are all indicia as to, you should have known that this was not the people who they're claiming it to be. Your hackles should have been up on this one. But again, this is something, that's why I say Lauren Chen has more of a potential threat that she could be named for at least, conspiring here or being part of this whole FARA violation. In theory, she could be. Just based on just not even, just being reckless. And again, I'm not trying to attach any sort of malfeasant intent from Lauren. But the best explanation is sloppiness. That you're not these people have a lot of money and they don't seem like a really professional corporation. And it seems as if, some of the stuff's not adding up. They can't spell the guy's name right. They signed the email Edward Gregorian. The guy can't sign his own name. Right? He misspells his own name. Seriously, he misspells his own name. But she might not have noticed it. It's possible. You don't know. So, she may be in hot water. She's been very silent. And she might be silent under the advice of counsel. In fact, if she has counsel, that counsel would tell her, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. There's 39 occasions that they used the wrong spelling. Sorry, that it was the same IP address was both Edward Gregorian and Persona 1, which was Persona 1 was supposedly a secretary for Edward Gregorian. So it's the same person playing both roles, Edward Gregorian and Persona 1, as alleged in this complaint. Anyway, so Lauren then transmits that CV on to persuade him to perform work on behalf of Edward Gregorian, and it works. That he had a problem with the profile sent over, specifically the reference to social justice. The issue that he had was that why does it say he's about social justice, and that's something a term used by liberals, but we're trying to create conservative work. And then they said, and they don't want to start doing social justice work and promoting that. And then Lauren said, "Why don't you talk to Edward yourself?" So they talked. So they set up a Zoom meeting for them at 5 p.m. Paris that day. And then now they have a time issue here where at approximately 8:58 a.m. Central Time, Edward replied to his early mail saying, "I'm here." He was there an hour early because the time in Paris, it was only 4 p.m. In Moscow, it was 5 p.m. So he got in there 5 p.m. Moscow time, says, "Hey, I'm in Paris. I'm here on time." And it's like, wait, in Paris, it was only 2 minutes to 4, not 2 minutes to 5. Why is he there why is he saying, "Hey, I'm here now, an hour and 2 minutes early," unless he's trying, he's basically claiming that he's in Paris when really he's in Moscow. And then 2 minutes later, Edward Gregorian does a Google search for time in Paris, and he says, "Sorry, wrong hour, didn't sync the Anyway, it's pretty funny stuff. Pretty funny stuff. I don't want to know. Don't you dare spoil it for me. Don't spoil it for me. Don't tell me anything. I'm not going to know for another couple of hours what happened, and I'm happy with that. I think Tim is mad he's not getting the publicity. I think he's okay with it. Did you fire your wife? She's not doing good finding sponsors. I expected a gold sponsor by now. It's pretty disappointing. It's pretty disappointing. I don't blame her though. I blame myself. Avatech. If the Rush stuff is true, it's pretty ironic. The grandfather of communism and sworn enemy of capitalism, the former USSR, now headed by Putin, a former KGB agent, is funding a push to keep the U.S. from descending into communism. It's so ironic. It's so ironic. It's crazy. It's crazy. I know. It's craziness. It's a great point. That's a great call. Thank you, Avatech. It's a really good call. We're going to pay millions of dollars to make sure you don't become communist through Kamala. It's weird. Crazy times we're living in. Let's check out the rest of this video here.
The DOJ came from Russian state media, as the indictment specifically names 2 individuals in their 30s that there is an indictment for that are, quote, currently still on the run. As U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said himself, quote, "There's
an indictment from them that is still on the run." I don't even know who's on the run now in this.
Company never disclosed to the influencers or to their millions of followers its ties to, quote, Russian state media company and the Russian government. Therefore, these articles that there was some kind of deliberate spreading of Russian disinformation is absolutely false. And I could attest this personally, as of course, I know Tim Pool. I've worked with him. We've been on the ground and did some of the craziest reporting ever from places like Fukushima, Japan, and other kind of larger protest zones and civil unrest areas. And we have been collaborating for, 12 plus years now? As of course, he already had an ongoing show that he sold to Tenet Media, licensed it to them, and then continued it just the same way he did. As
so his show is owned by Lauren Chen's company.
There was no editorial control over it at all. So the fact that this organization was influencing Tim to spread Russian disinformation is absolutely false. And if you look...
The point being, even though he's producing his own content, it's not these other people who are deciding what he's producing. And that's why his opinion on this to me is relevant. It's a factual claim he's making. He's like, look, I work with Tim, and I know that, yes, he did sell his show over to Tenet Media, which is funded by this company, by these Russians. But part of the deal is he has exclusive control over everything, and he's just deciding what he wants to cover.
Look at that larger kind of culture war show, which I've been on, there's been a lot of particular issues that we have been describing that are absolutely out of the orthodoxy of even politics. There's a lot of things specifically talked about when it comes to culture, and seeing how the show is produced, seeing how the show is made, and being a part of the show sometimes myself, there was absolutely no one, in my opinion, from my perspective and my observations, that came in and said, no, you're going to talk about this, you're not going to talk about that. There was no editorial control from what I have personally seen on the ground from myself, from my own personal perspective and viewpoint. As Tim Pool made an official statement addressing all of this, saying that he was deceived and is the victim here, saying, quote, never at any point did anyone other than I have full editorial control of the show, and the contents of the show are often apolitical. Examples including discussing spiritual, dating, and video games. Ending on his latest talking points against Vladimir Putin and Russia, as Benny Johnson, also someone that I know in the industry, also released a statement saying that he is disturbed by the allegations in today's indictment, as when you read the indictment, a lot of these allegations are specifically about not being registered, quote, foreign agents, as of course, there is a lot of influence that usually does happen by foreign corporations, foreign entities, and of course, countries that try to sway political speech and conversations here in the United States. As particularly Mike Cernovich pointed out that AJ plus Al Jazeera, quote, is a far left-wing media outlet designed to create riots and chaos. Quote, it is funded by Qatar. Today's indictment is small-time stuff. And I would agree with that, as of course, China also pays significantly a lot of money in order to push particular talking points inside of American media. And personally, as someone who is also an independent journalist and an influencer, there have been incidences where a lot of major kind of industries have come to me and offered me a buttload of money. Now, whatever that might mean to you or to somebody else, but we're talking something in the tune of like high five figures to particularly sell a certain kind of product or activity, to the point where I kind of felt uncomfortable specifically where that money was coming from, and I denied those larger opportunities to me. As of course, we don't make that much money here. What some of the tenant guys were making in a month, we don't make in a year.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, I don't make in a year what they were making a month either. But that's okay. I make enough to feed my family, and that's all that matters. Drop Barracuda, it's worse than the Russian if he's a time traveler. I'm not sure. Oh, you're saying the being off by an hour? Yeah, that's pretty bad. Just tuning in, Grimm's Bar. Glad to see you still going strong. Here's 2.5 years. God bless you, Salute. I'm going to give you one of these. Grimm's Bar. One of my long. I think you might be. I think 28 months might be the longest anyone's been a sub on my channel. 28 friggin' months. God bless you, my brother. It's good to see you as always. Tim Pool said tonight that the only content Tenant got was reposting content he made for his own channels on YouTube and his website. Yeah, like I said, I certainly don't think that any of the information you got from any of them, even Lauren, I don't think any of it was something that was directed to them by Russian propagandists. Still, you can't take money from people. And I'm not saying that they did. That should make you feel better as a viewer and consumer of their content, that you're not being, you're not being sculpted by the Kremlin. I would have no hesitation watching Benny Johnson's content, Dave Rubin's content, Tim Pool's content, or Lauren's content, and thinking to myself, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm just being fed Russian propaganda here. I don't buy it. I don't think it's true. Now, I don't necessarily always agree with their opinions. I frequently will disagree. But I don't think for a second that any of them felt as if like their content is going to be molded by the Kremlin. And I don't think there's anything wrong with what the three gentlemen did. What Lauren did at worst was sloppy. It was sloppy. So, and there for the grace of God, right? So I certainly don't hold her as someone who should be like, receiving our scorn. Nothing harmed you here or me. So I don't think that she should be a product of our scorn. But it is a hit that the right is going to take. You can't deny that. I mean, this is just a reality. So, do I think it's a nothing burger? With respect to the three, I was like, is this a true story? Is a nothing burger? So I'll tell you this. With respect to the three gentlemen, it's a complete nothing burger. With respect to Lauren Chen, it could be criminal charges that she faces. Assuming that she does face those charges, I hope she would succeed in defeating them. She could face them, potentially. I wouldn't rule that out at all. And I would hope that she would succeed. These charges are brought in the Southern District of New York. So if she's brought into the Southern District of New York, I don't know if she could be brought in here. She might be brought in Tennessee. The jurisdiction would mean everything, if she were to be criminally charged. Everything. It's a very big difference between being hailed into court before a Memphis jury or a New York City jury, as we saw with the Trump case. And even though a federal jury pool in New York is going to be far more balanced because it comes from a much broader constituency than you would have one if you were in New York State court in New York County, it still would be a much rougher jurisdiction for her. So hopefully she's never charged. And if she is charged, hopefully it's in Tennessee, and hopefully she gets exonerated, because I don't think she ended up harming anybody. That doesn't mean it's not something that she's going to have to face, and it's also something, it's a reality that we have to face, that the left is going to be like, oh my gosh, they're all just spouting Russia, they're Russia, Russia, Russia. They've been screaming Russia, Russia, Russia for the last 8 years. This will only embolden the left to scream Russia, 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 over and over again, like Jan Brady, and we should expect that that's going to pick up. So you need to be informed, and that's what I'm trying to keep you as informed as possible. I'm late. I'm supposed to be doing a local show. It's pinned in the comments. It's in the description. In a local show, I'm going to be covering Crowder and his break today. I'm also going to be talking about Chutkin and Trump being brought back into court, Trump's lawyers more specifically, being brought back before Judge Chutkin, and some of the Chutkianianness that she displayed in court. And I'm going to be heading on over there for that in probably like 5 minutes or so. It was scheduled for 12:45. It's pinned in the chat in both YouTube and Rumble. It's pinned in the chat. It's in the description down below. I urge you to join me over there. I'll probably be there in roughly 10 minutes or so. I just need to set up some streams. The Locals is designed really to help ensure that I have some sort of stability. God forbid if YouTube keeps shaving away all my members until every one of you disappears or shuts me down. So the monthly fee there is $5 a month, but it's not designed to be keeping anyone out. If you cannot afford it, please don't hesitate. Hit me up. Send me an email. Hit me up on Twitter. And I will send you a link to make sure that you say, look, I enjoy your content. And if I do send you a link to I'll take care of you for free. I'm trying to send the link to people who actually care about the content. And if you're one of those people, you can help share out what I'm producing. I think that'd be appropriate, but it's not a mandatory thing. Share out my local streams, share out my stuff, a couple times a month. That'd be a nice, that's a way of saying thank you. But even a thank you is not something I'm not demanding that from anyone. I'm certainly not demanding anyone show me the proof of their inability to pay any money. If you want access, you can't afford it, hit me up. I'll take care of you with a code. I'm going to be over there soon. I'm landing my plane here relatively quickly, doing a quick run around here, make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Will Cuomo and Hako register on the fair as well? They should. They really should. They really should. Does the Foreign Agency Registration Act somehow breach the Fifth Amendment? Seems to violate the spirit of the Wixon ruling. There's nothing illegal about registering as a foreign agent, so it's not self-incriminating. So I don't think it does. 26 months, almost tied for the lead. You see, you got to keep at it. Well, you just need him to miss one payment. He's coming after you, Grimsbar. He's coming after you. Sniffer in chief. Great to see. I'll give you one of these. People here for more than 2 years. I can give you one of those. All right. God bless you. Let me do a quick double check. Discount double check. Make sure I didn't miss anything over here. Tomorrow I'm gonna be on layback law, and stuff's gonna happen there. I'm sure. I'm looking forward to that. I forgot to check over here in locals. Let me do a quick locals check. Make sure I didn't miss anything there. We're good there? Oh, I did miss some locals. A Texley sent me a couple. First thing was about Farah. The DOJ IG produced a report on the way Farah was being enforced. The report was released on September 7th, 2016, a few weeks after the Trump-Russia investigation was open. The press release had the background and the link to the report. The threat of a Farah case against Lieutenant General Flynn's son is what caused Flynn to roll over and take a plea. We absolutely should not have. I agree with you that he was pressured. I didn't realize it was a Farah claim, but I knew that his son was being pressured. We've heard the Russia song before. On Friday the 13th, in July of 2018, while Trump was in the air on an international trip, Rod Rosenstein announced the D.C. leaks indictment against 12 Russians in Russia. The DOJ received a surprise when the Russians hired an attorney who defended them against the fabricated charges in an entertaining and public manner. LOL. I can't you pull this up. This looks like a long thing. I can't really go through this now. I am going to be landing my plane right here and now. So, Joe, my brethren, does it list any specific examples of Russian propaganda? What does it even mean? It doesn't. It doesn't list a single example of Russian propaganda. Other than the fact that it references, that they would produce content that, might be deemed favorable by Russia, like being against the Ukraine war. So that's how they would portray it. They would say all your arguments against the Ukraine war was clearly pro-Russia. No, I disagree. I'm not being paid a penny by Russia, and I'm very strongly against the Ukraine war. So, yeah, I don't get paid a penny by anybody. You fine folks. You fine folks. All right, I am landing my plane here, and I'm going to be heading over to locals. I should be there. It's now 1:04 a.m. I should be there by 1:15 a.m. the latest, maybe even sooner. Until then, I do hope, by the way, to be streaming on Saturday nights. I took the summer off on streaming Saturday nights. I should be back this Saturday night. So if you don't join me on locals, A, shame on you, but B, I will see you, God willing, Saturday night. I thank you all for joining me. I'm just going to remind you, no lab meat, and for the love of God, don't eat the freaking bugs. Don't eat the bugs. Don't eat the bugs. Don't eat the bugs. Good night and Godspeed.